The following is a non-profit horror story narration. The story narrated with full permission and cooperation is written and owned by the author, who is credited in the subject line and in the description down below, along with a link to the original story. This video may contain some material such as violence, creepiness, jump scares, adult language, and suggested content which may not be suitable for some viewers. Please support the official release, and viewer discretion is advised. My name is Brian, and I'm 21 years old. I work at the counter at a local bar, probably because we have no female employees since what happened to the last one. So everyone with half a brain knows that you meet all kinds of shady people while you're at work. Hell, it's not uncommon if the police show up a day or two after you talk to one. Our manager doesn't like to admit it, but our establishment is the place all the creeps and possible psychopaths go to. That being said, I met and even held a conversation with a lot of these people. It's because of this my fellow co-workers tend to be uncomfortable around me. After all, I must not be normal since I can hold a conversation with an abuser or possible arsonist. So yeah, the workplace isn't a place for me to socialize. Unless you count talking to criminals socializing. Not that it matters, because I dislike socializing. So one night I go to work. As I enter the bar though, I noticed that there was a guy at the corner of the street, staring in my direction. I figured he was just waiting for the bar to open, and was some alcoholic. So I just ignored him. I helped the manager open, then began to work as our usual customers came in, rushing from work to come and get their fix. One of them came up to the counter and began talking about his crappy life. He was saying something along the lines that he was going to get laid off and that his marriage is failing. I didn't really pay attention to him, and more focused on looking around for people who wanted refills. It was then I noticed him. It was the man that had been on the corner of the street. I kept an eye on him, nodding and shaking my head through the conversation. As time passed, though, I lost sight of him. I would have just passed him off as a customer. But if that were the case, he would have gotten a drink. That's right. For a few hours, he had been within my sight, and he had not had a single drink. It's situations like this that make my coworkers nervous. After all, he could have been a serial killer looking for his next target. So I choose not to tell my coworkers, figuring if he had been, he was long gone anyways. The rest of my shift was pretty normal, and it was past midnight when I went to head home. As I was walking on the street, I noticed someone on the edge of the alleyway. I knew that wasn't good, so I turned around and started walking the other direction. I occasionally looked back to see if he was following, but he wasn't. I continued to walk in the other direction regardless though. Then I see another guy hiding in the edge of the alleyway. But this time, I was a lot closer before I saw him. I can barely make out their shape in the darkness. Not to mention there are no street lamps, so it would have been impossible to see them if they were wearing black. Now alarms are going off in my head. I turn around again to see that the guy I had seen earlier is now at an alleyway not too far from where I am. This was an ambush. Now most people will be scared as hell, or be ready to fight. But not me. I knew there wasn't really anywhere for me to go, so I decided to just talk to them. I yelled. Hey! I hate to break it to you, but I can see you guys. Assuming there's only two. No reply. If you're going to do something, I suggest you do it sooner or later, because there are some people heading this way. Still no reply. I turned around, looking at the alleyway where I had seen one of them. There was no longer anybody there. I turned to look at the other alleyway, and once again, no one was there. That made no sense. Why would they just disappear? They obviously didn't plan on robbing me. After all, you don't trap someone and try to avoid being seen like that if you're going to rob someone. On top of that, I'm pretty sure I saw one of their cheeks, which means they hadn't covered their faces. The only conclusion I can come up to is they either planned on killing me or were just teenagers pulling a prank. The second is unlikely, saying this part of town is where all the criminals live. I shrugged it off, continuing my walk home. A group of drunken men walking not far behind me. I made it back to my apartment and fell asleep soon after. Fast forward about a month. I'm still working at the bar and haven't had any encounters with those guys. But I do occasionally see that drunken guy who was at the street corner. In fact, that drunken guy has come to the bar so often, he's become a regular. But he doesn't drink much. In fact, sometimes he doesn't drink at all. It was mostly due to the latter part that I kept an eye on him. Anyways, I was walking home one night. A man stepped out from an alleyway. He had a creepy grin covering his face, and his eyes were focusing on me as if intrigued. What do you want? No reply. He just stood there, staring with a smile. I stared back at him, but not with a menacing stare. I was intrigued. I was trying to figure out what was going on through his mind. We've been waiting for you, the man said, his grin fading. Instantly, I wondered, who's we? Why? You intrigue us, he said, still focusing on me. After that night, we did some digging. We know all about your past. So, unless you want something, I'll be going, I said, annoyed by this encounter. Grab him. I barely heard the words before two men came from behind me and kicked each of my legs, forcing me to my knees. They put duct tape over my mouth and put it back over my head, following by them duct taping my hands together. They did all of these things almost simultaneously, giving me no time to react. One of them picked me up and then ran. It wasn't too long after that I was placed in a trunk. The drive was long and uncomfortable, but it was better than being dead. After a while, the car stopped. Then the trunk opened. Then the mask was taken off my head. I was greeted by three men. Their age probably somewhere between mid-20s to mid-30s. One of them was the man I had seen come to the bar day after day. And of course, another one was the man that confronted me. The man from the bar lifted me out of the trunk and walked me to an abandoned warehouse. The other two men following. Once we reached the warehouse door, it was opened by two more men inside. They both looked like they were in their early 20s. My age. The man ripped the duct tape off, then tossed me into the warehouse. I stayed quiet, waiting to see what would happen. The other two men entered the warehouse, and the two younger men shut the door behind them. The man that confronted me walked over to me and looked at me with eyes of intrigue once again. Sorry to bring you here forcefully, but we couldn't really talk freely on the street. We wouldn't want somebody eavesdropping on our conversation. I was curious as to what he wanted to talk about, but whatever it was, it clearly wasn't legal. I'm listening. Well, you see, that night a month ago, we did plan on killing you. But something happened, and we had to abort mission. However, there was something about you I found interesting. So I looked you up, had you under surveillance, all kinds of shit. You see, I don't want to kill you. I want you to join us, he said with a smirk. What are my choices? After all, what type of criminal would give you the choice to leave after you've seen their face? Leave or join us. You can do either. I know you won't tell anyone about us, even if we walked out that door right now, he said with a smirk, the two young men looking at him with a surprise at his words. John, it's too late. You've seen us, one of the younger ones said. The man just glanced at him, and then back at me, shutting him up completely. So what's it gonna be? He said with his smirk gone. I don't know what was weirder, the fact that he knew I wouldn't tell anyone, or the fact that he had complete and utter faith in his prediction. Sure. I'm in. Good. But remember, once you've joined us, you can never back out, he said with a smirk reappearing on his face. You'll sleep here tonight, he said as he cut the duct tape that held my hands together. He nudged his head towards an old-looking bed against the wall. And we'll have introductions tomorrow when everyone wakes up in the evening. I nodded and walked over to the bed and sat on it. They were now all in a heated conversation, paying little attention to me. I took advantage of that to type this all up using my phone. I feel as if I have a good idea of how much shit I'm in, but I like to hear what normal people think. Until next time.